Hello and welcome to the Leadership Lab, the podcast where we dissect life science success stories. I'm your host, Maurice, and I'm thrilled to bring you conversations with industry visionaries in the life science space who will discuss their successes, failures, challenges, and also the leaders who inspired them. Hello and welcome to the Leadership Lab. I'm your host, Maurice Thornton. Today in the studio, I have with me Veronica Gambillara Fonck. She's a partner at Pureos Bioventures. Veronica, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here.
What we would love to do today is obviously understand your journey, kind of where you've come from, where you are today, and kind of everything that happened along the way. And so what I always like to start with is, well, first of all, where are you from?
I come from Ticino.
Okay.
So the Italian part of Switzerland, for the people who doesn't know. But really on the south, from Chiasso.
Ah, like right at the border.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I can see the border actually from the house of my parents. So, and my dad is Italian, but I grew up in Switzerland.
And your mom is from here, or?
Yeah, my mom is from Ticino.
Okay.
But the origin from my mom is from Lucerne, actually.
Okay.
And I always tend to say that I have the best of both.
Okay.
The organization and structure from Switzerland, but a little bit the gene and blood and how to have fun from Italy.
So you grew up in Chiasso.
I grew up in Chiasso.
Okay. And what were you like as a kid?
Oh, doing sports.
Okay, which ones? Like tennis? We just talked about before.
Tennis, skiing, actually everything. Tennis, skiing, volleyball, soccer, swimming, everything. I really, really enjoy to do sports. By the way, I wanted to do the sports academy here at the ATH. I wanted to study sports.
Okay. And what do you think about the sports as it applies to career? I mean, do you think you got lessons out of that?
Yeah, I think it's very important.
Okay.
Indeed. I think the fact to know to sometimes to try hard, work hard to reach a goal, and as well to measure yourself with the others, but always in the positive way, and to have as well this stress at the beginning of the competition, I think it's really can help you in life.
Okay. And I mean, anything in particular that you think, okay, wow, that was a time when I was really stressed out about work, or do you use sports like when you are stressed out at work still to this day? Like, I don't know, is there, for me, I was the same. I played all kinds of sports when I was a kid, and it was about, being dedicated to something. You say you're going to show up for practice, you show up for practice. I think that's highly applicable also for business. I don't know, do you still use it as a de-stressor?
Yeah, indeed. I think it's a very important part of the life. They call it life balance that you need to have with family, sport, and work. So I think for me, at least, it is important because it helped me to distress, helped me to change my mind when sometimes you think too much about work. And as well allowed you to feel good after and see maybe problems with a different perspective or in a different way. So indeed, I play still a lot of tennis and I go a lot in the mountains, skiing in winter. So that are my two that I kept. Okay.
And what was your favorite when you were a kid though?
Skiing as well.
Okay.
A lot. I did a lot of competitions when I was younger with
you
the
were
family,
one of those kids.
And tennis. But when you're young, you have more time. So I like to really try a lot of things. I was even in a soccer team for a while. Okay. So,
what about how about as a student?
I was not so good. I mean, I was, let's say, I was a minimalist in the sense that I still enjoyed more to do sports and be with friends. But on the other hand, I always knew that I needed to continue to study because the knowledge that you can gain when you're young, it stays. And so I always try to pass and to continue. But I have to say I was not spending too many hours in just studying.
So eventually you went to study. How did you end up there? And where did you end up?
So I ended up to the ATH here in Zurich, actually. Okay. So I started to do engineering. And that is the funny part because in our family, the job that could give you the best, how can you say, way of succeed or a stable position, and to be independent and to be able to really to then offer to your kids as well the possibility to grow. In our family was either engineering or something like this, or to be a doctor. Okay. My sister decided to be a doctor.
Okay.
And then I was seeing how much she was studying by heart. And despite I wanted as well to be a doctor, I say, that's interesting. I say, I'm not going to study so much. And so I thought, okay, where should I go that maybe is more about logics? I always been very logical person.
Okay.
I always been good in maths. And then, the other choice was engineering. And so I decided to come to Zurich and study engineering.
I was going to study engineering. That was actually my plan. And I went to visit the university, and they showed me a book that was like this thick, and it was called Concrete. And I decided, no, there's no way I'm going to, it just looked too dry for me. But yeah, same. I had math, but in the end, I ended up obviously somewhere else. But how did you get to that? It was, okay, I could study math, I could study engineering. That's accepted by the family. That's the one I'm going to do.
I was good in maths, but then, there is a lot of type of engineering. And how to choose it, actually, I just came in here. I look at the plan, how many hours they had per week, and as well which type of, maths, physics. And then at the end, I choose material science because they had a little bit less hours. And the second point, it was because he had a little bit of more variety. It was as well a little more chemistry and tissue engineering, biomaterials. And so I thought, okay, it's not so boring, just math, but as well there is a little bit of others things that I can learn. And so I thought, let's try with this one.
Okay. So you came to Zurich. Did you speak German at the time?
Yeah, my mother actually, yes, she spoke, but she didn't do it with us. So no, my German was really poor German.
Yeah, I've never heard you speak German, so I was wondering.
Indeed,
okay,
that's why.
Okay,
it's not too bad, but actually I speak better now that I was used to speak when I was a kid, definitely, because now with the kids you need to be integrated. But no, my German was poor, but at the end, engineering, you need to more understand. You have the books. I could read still German. And then it's a lot of writing in the test. So your level of German doesn't need to be so high. Okay. But you still need to understand a little bit.
Yeah, well, not like today. I think it's all in English.
Today, yes, there is a lot in English. We had as well a couple of English, but not so much. Okay. Actually, still was, at my time, was the main in German. But auch Deutsch, that was the good part.
Okay. So material science, what was that, a master's?
Yeah, it's a master's. Okay. Yeah, exactly, master's. And then I really started to look at the direction. And when I was studying material science, I thought, there is this biomaterial. And then there was tissue engineering. And I really liked it because actually I thought, perfect, that's combine my wish to still do some medicine or actually to do something with the health, human body. But then it was really integrating the material into the body. That was then actually the direction that I took. And so I went then to do a master in the US where I was trying to reconstruct bladder. And it was really with, different type of material, polymers. Yeah. And then you cultivate with cells, and then you see how they react. And that is how I really say, that is really cool. And that is what I would like to do.
So you went to the US?
I went to the US for my master's, so it's 6 months. So I went there.
Where were you?
That was actually, it's a funny story, because my professor connected me with 3 professors. And then you send the application, and then they tell you if, yes, you can join to make your master. And at the end, 2 of them replied to me. And one was in California, actually in Santa Barbara. And the other one was in Colorado, Fort Collins. And just because in Colorado, Fort Collins, the concept about, as I described this reconstruction of the bladder, I thought that was more interesting. I decided to go to Fort Collins, Colorado. That if now I think about, was a bad choice because California, Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara's nice, yeah.
Is definitely a nicer place. For Collins, it was a really bit remote, but at the end, it was good. I really enjoyed the time to be there.
Could go skiing.
It was summer.
Oh, okay.
It was summertime, so no skiing. I went to Boulder and the Rocky Mountains, but no skiing.
I mean, I grew up in North America. I can put my hand up and say.
Yeah. And moreover, I was in Fort Collins. I have to say again, it was Fort Collins. Probably if I would have been in California, Santa Barbara, my decision would have been different. So I have to say that, and actually I finish up afterwards in Santa Barbara. So that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to that.
On.
So you finished the Masters, Fort Collins. What came next?
So then I came back and I decided to do a PhD. And why I decided to do a PhD? Not so much because I wanted to be a professor. Normally at that time you do a PhD if you want to do an academic career. I decided to do a PhD because I wanted to really reshape my knowledge. And, I had an engineer base, material science. And I thought, okay, I want to get stronger into these biomaterials, life science, biology, that really try to shift my education towards biotechnology, actually. That was the topic. Okay. So I really looked for a PhD to do in this direction. And at that time, Patrick Ebischer at the EPFL in Lausanne, they just opened up this new department that was called Life Science. And
when was this? What year was this? I don't want to date you or anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. You are doing it.
It could be. You could have gone at any age,
No, it was. 99, or I finished in 99.
There you go. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I easily forget these things. Okay. Maybe on purpose, but anyway. Exactly. So that was really the beginning. I think really what I remember was the second, third year of the life science, this department. And so I went there. And actually what's funny is because there as well you have to apply to do your PhD. And I got different position. And at the end, I started in another position that was at the CHUV, Cantonal Hospital in Lausanne. Yeah. Exactly.
It's pretty famous.
It's a pretty famous hospital. They do is exactly research hospital. And there was connection with the EPFL. So in Lausanne, I thought, okay, why not? And then I thought, I will go to the hospital. I really thought that could have been a very nice opportunity. And so I started there. But then I realized, you don't know when before starting that I was completely alone. Yes, there was the professor that was a doctor, and there was a research, and I had my PhD, topics.
What was the topic? Or what
it
direction?
Was really interaction, exactly. My biomaterials interaction with the human body, so in cells, and that actually even tissue. But then, as I was the only one in the lab, or there was just few people in the lab. They had a lab, but there was not so many people. And I say, okay, who is going to really teach me all the things that I don't know? Because all these, biology, RNA, protein, how to make just simple Western blot or all the techniques. If you have a small lab, you're going to learn one or two, but you don't have this spread on understanding what you can really learn. And so I started for 3 months, and then I took the decision to tell to my professor that was not for me, and to search another PhD place.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
just because you didn't feel supported or alone or...
I was alone. I knew, I always think that at the end, more people, you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
And I'm a team player, moreover. And so to be alone, for sure, I can do it. But I think doesn't take out the best of myself, and as well, I cannot learn from the others. And then I decided, yes, I'm going to quit. And for sure, I remember as well, my parents, are you sure? And then...
Didn't you have people saying, oh, it's only 3 months, you'll get used to it?
Yeah, the professor. But, this day, you need to follow your gut feeling.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes you really need to...
Yeah.
And it's a risk, I know. But I thought, okay, come on, I will find another place. I'm being always positive. Actually, I always say, yeah, something else will come. And so, I say no. The professor wasn't happy at all. I can tell you. And then I searched for another place. And actually, I found it at the EPFL. In Lausanne, because I already moved to Lausanne.
Yeah.
I was from Zurich, I moved to Lausanne. And so then I started in another place where more towards hemodynamics.
Yeah.
But it was a big lab, there was already other student.
What's hemodynamics?
Hemodynamics is really how the blood flow affect your tissue.
Okay. How was your French?
Better. For an Italian-speaking person, it's easier.
Yeah. Okay.
It's easier. Still, I had to learn. But the difference is that in Zurich, everybody speaks English. So, and during my study, there was this Ticinese mafia. And so, unfortunately, that didn't help my German because I was staying with the Ticino people. In Lausanne, people are a little bit more open. Maybe the language is easier. And therefore, I mixed up with a lot of French people and actually people from everywhere. Postdoc is as well different. PhD is different than when you go to school.
Yeah.
So we were a lot of different nationalities. And actually, we spoke a lot of English, other French.
Okay. So you finished? What was your thesis?
So hemodynamics in life science, so bioengineering, you can say. And I finished after between 4 and 5 years. I did all my parcours. And that was nice because then my professor, already was doing startup. So he created, next to his academic role, he did some startup. So started to implement some ideas and try to make a company out of it. And so I was seeing what he was doing. And actually sometimes I was really exposed because when I was looking for him, he was never around. And then, he's at the startup. And so I was going to the startup to check it out, what he was doing. And so he proposed me to join the startup.
Okay.
So he asked me, Veronica, I think you will fit very well. Why you don't join my company?
Okay, but why not a big one right away?
I don't know. Actually, after I can tell you why not a big one. Because then I went to a big one and I came back to a smaller one.
Okay.
I really think at that time, I really didn't think about, when I finished the PhD, you don't think too much. And I finished, I was partying, and then the professor say, Vero, why you should join my company? And then why should I say no? I say, yes, I'm looking for a job. I like the professor, I like the topic. I went there. Because he was the founder, but he was not the CEO. So I still had my interviews with the CEO that had to agree to take me. But then when they said yes, I say, yeah, let's try. And I always think try, and if it doesn't work, then you try to do something else.
Right.
So
what was the name of this?
Endoart. And that it worked actually because for the obesity, we got acquired by Allergan that at that time was in the obesity field.
Okay.
And they like, I set it up this huge clinical trial in US and along doing the clinical study in US, we got acquired.
So this was, so Endoart was doing the trial in the US.
Yes.
Allergan said, oof, we like that.
Yes.
So this is Botox Allergan that we know today, or basically that's
correct.
What I've always known. I didn't know that they were devices at all.
Yes, they were. They had two. They had the pharma part in Irvine, and then they had the medical part that is in Santa Barbara Goleta.
Ah, okay. So that's okay.
Exactly.
So
we will get there.
Okay, so Endoart gets bought.
Yes.
you go to Allergan.
Exactly. We have been integrated, so means that Endoart then really became part of Allergan. They decided to maintain one site in Switzerland because still all the engineering to make this all the pieces for this device was still a lot done in Switzerland. But because I was this clinical and regulatory person, I really spent a lot of time in US and in California because the study was running, phase 3 was in US and Canada, and so I spent a lot of time there.
Okay. So you mentioned before, when I said why not big, Allergan's pretty big.
Indeed.
So what did you find when you went there? What were the surprises? I mean, how many people were in Endoart?
In Endoart, we were 25, 30.
And in Allergan?
Max, thousands.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
how was that different?
So I think the main difference is that decisions are much slower.
Yeah.
And your impact is much more diluted.
Yeah.
That's, I think, really the big difference. For me, at least for what is important for me, because there is as well a lot of positive. There is you have a lot of opportunity to move. There is a lot of much more resources. It's much normally it's as well more structured. So I learned as well. I stayed for 2 years.
Okay.
And I have to say I was as well lucky because they bought, and so they was putting a lot of attention to our product. And every time was going, I was in Santa Barbara, I was really exposed to the management of Allergan, so very high placed. And they wanted to keep me. But for me, as I say, when you need to wait too long for a decision, or they change decision just based on the commercial, and after 2 years they go back to the first decision that you proposed in the first place. It was for me a little bit not demotivating, but as I say, this more I think personal things, because there is as well a lot of good things that you have in bigger pharma.
Okay. So what happened next?
And so happens that actually somebody contacted me. So when I was in Allergan, actually the CEO of Endoart took after 2 years another position as a CEO in another company. And then he gave me a call. And he say, Veronica, I need you. And I say, okay, I am in a company and in the biotech and actually in a vaccine company.
Okay.
And then I say to him, but I mean, I've been until now in medical device and that is my expertise. It's not important. It's not how much you know, it's how you do things. And he convinced me. So he convinced me to join them. For sure, I went to see the people, and I really thought that was a nice environment. And at the end, I thought, why not? It's a biotech. I try something new. And at the end, I knew the boss, so I knew that I work very well with him. And I said, yeah, I take the challenge. And I decided to come back to Zurich.
Okay. Okay.
And to start this new adventure that was in Glycovaxyn.
Glycovaxyn. Okay. What happened there?
My job was still in the clinical regulatory, okay. And actually the company was in a really exciting moment because they were bringing the first vaccine candidate into the humans.
Okay.
And that is why they needed me. I was really doing clinical and regulatory, but the point I was doing the medtech. And so here I tell you the good and the bad side. So the bad side that I had to learn a lot, because still medtech is different than biotech, and especially vaccine. That is a completely another field than pharma, than drugs.
Yeah.
But there I was good because I think when you don't know, you just need to find the right people that knows. And I always try to surround me by people that are more intelligent than me, because so you can really learn. And I think then you just need to listen and then try to make your own opinion, because at the end you need to take your decision. But I always work with people that know. So I had an advisor in regulatory. At that time, more advisor, because you cannot have a lot of people inside a startup. But so a very good consultant in regulatory, in clinical, and so I spend a lot of time talking with them and reading and learning, and then how I did it until then, you have your own experience and then you take your own decision.
So what would you say is, so you didn't know anything about biotech, you didn't know anything about vaccines, but you had these advisors. Were you just every day, like, how do I do this? What is this? How do we do this? Was it just...
Sure. But first of all, the company was already, they had some people. There was the CSO that for sure had expertise. The people inside the company, they already knew. And then there was this advisory board, that I have access. Some of them was already there supporting the company because the company was already formed. And so I could they gave me access to talk to them and use them. And then with the time, then as well what you are missing. And then I could try to find the right people that I could work with. And that's what I think it's important, is that you need to know what you know and what you don't know, and what you don't know, find the people that you know. And to have the best people, I think at the end you need to contact and maintain the good people that work with you in the company or outside the company. At the end is the same, is to be respectful, be nice, give credit to the people as well when they're outside, make them feel part of the family, and then people will want to work with you, and then they will give as well your best, and then they will give you the best advice, and I learn from them and listen to them, and I think that was one of the key factors that makes that the company was as well successful.
So you were doing that, but you'd say throughout the company? This was the attitude, like, hey, we want to bring in experts, we want to make everybody feel part of it, we want to praise them when they do good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely was. And for sure, I was lucky that I had a boss that allowed me, really gave...
Were you reporting to the CEO?
I was reporting to the CEO. But definitely, I think I was lucky enough in my parkour and my career to have a boss that recognize what you do, because for me it's important, and as well I allowed you to make mistakes sometimes, because I did so many actually, so many mistakes if I think back, but still until it's not, you don't put something in danger, that is the base. I always say it as well to my employee, until there is no safety involved, so that you can harm the people or big money involved, then just try. Just try, and then you will make mistake, but it's part of the game.
What was the biggest one?
Ooh, no.
No, it's okay. We don't have to. But
biggest one, many, but how much? Maybe react badly in a meeting where I shouldn't react its way. And that I learned that because I'm a very emotional person. Now I learned that if get too emotion, I always take a bio break, for example, or I drink something because I need to take a breath. And at the beginning I didn't know, and then you say things that then you regret. Like email, I don't now reply anymore on the same day. I always wait 24 days and I reread the email and then I reply.
24 hours, I guess.
You're right.
24 hours days is really
24
chilling
days
out.
is very long. You're right. Indeed. 24 hours. So are the things that you learned. Okay. And then you try to apply. Practically, what was my? I don't.
It's usually money. You just cost the company money, but something is delayed or...
Yeah, something is delayed. I try to think in this clinical position, really big mistakes. it's really difficult to say mistake in a project, because at the end, you don't have the placebo control. You don't know if you would have done differently, would have been better, because you should try it. So it's more, at the end, I think really try always to do the best and try to talk as much as people around you. I always think people are more heads is always better. At the end, you need to take your own decision and you need to live with it. But more you test your idea or your way, your development plan, your clinical project with people, better it is at the end. That it is you water test, as you said.
Okay.
You really try to,
stress test it.
Stress test it.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So what ended up happening to Glycovaxyn?
So then Glycovaxyn actually went well, because got bought by GSK.
Yeah.
So it was after, I think, 6 years that I was there, 5-6 years.
What was it like when? I mean, I've been in the situation, but it's always just these rumors. Oh, have you heard? I mean, what was the environment like leading up to the acquisition?
It was good. I mean, it's always good when you go through a positive. But first of all, the environment, I have to say, went very fast, because actually how it happened, at least in Glycovaxyn, is that, we were progressing with a different vaccine candidate. We had a very good pipeline. We had very good syndicate, so investor that supported us. But at a certain point, again, the investor wants to see a return of investment. And so we were in this stage that we thought maybe the next stage should go to an IPO, so to go public. And there was just before us a molecular partner that is another Swiss company, just a neighbor, that got public with success. And we thought maybe that is the way that Glycovaxyn needs to proceed. And as well is a way that you show the pharma environment that if they are interested in your company, they need to acquire you, because otherwise afterwards you're public. You can still acquire, but would be a completely different dynamics. And so I think was as well strategic, try to push and try to really push some company that they know us. We had a lot of collaboration with Johnson & Johnson. We had with GSK, a big one. So it was as well a way to try to tell them, hey, if you are interested, better that you do right now. And so we really did all the process to do an IPO. Pilot fishing, we were in contact with the banks. We started to go on shore road, and talking with all these crossover funds and banks. And then along this period, then happens that actually Glaxo decided to take over, and went quite quickly.
Okay.
Actually,
it was 6 or 7 years. So what was your job? Was it still the same?
Yes.
What were you
actually,
doing
I was. I did clinical regulatory for long. Actually, I built up the clinical and regulatory team there. Then, at a certain point, I moved to business development for a couple of years.
Meaning what? Because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What was your actual job?
There, actually, business development is really to understand the opportunity into the pharma. And, in the vaccine, there are not so many vaccine companies. And so really to try to understand what they are looking for, at which stage they would like to, to really get engaged, how to position the company and try to raise the interest from the pharma.
Okay.
On one side, that was. And then really then all the market assessment, how to try to identify in the pipeline. So what else do we need to do to be more attractive for a pharma interest? That was really what I was doing during this I didn't do for longer, 2 years, 1.5, 2 years of business development. Then going to Congress, to talk, to really expose the company in addition to the CSO and the CEO and CSO to really expose the company to the external world and to make that people knows Glycovaxyn, what they are doing, what they are proposing.
Okay, so they're taking over.
So then what happened, I think that is what I think was really a good part, is that we asked Glaxo, so GSK, to not be integrated. So we really had this discussion on to not integrate into these big companies, but we say, startup works well, fast, innovation is there because they don't have all these complexity in the quality system, the regulation as a big company. That I understand, a big company, they need to have this, the risk is. So we really discussed to have a very intense research collaboration. So where we really, for a certain time, we would work really a lot for them, for GSK. So we implemented 80% of our time, but we would be an independent company. So what we did then, we really created LimmaTech Biologics.
Okay.
With LimmaTech Biologic, we implemented this research collaboration with GSK with defined condition. As I say, for a certain period, we should work mainly for them because we had to transfer the IP, we had to transfer the know-how, the program that we had in the pipeline. And but on the meantime, because we were independent, we could start to think what else we want to do. Yep. And we thought in order to really maintain this innovation spirit to say, okay, because they acquired, we want to maintain here the people. In Zurich, we have a really good team. We were already 50 people at that time. And we want to take advantage of our knowledge to try to, to do something else.
Okay.
And so it worked very well because actually LimmaTech Biologic is still existing and it's doing very well.
Okay. So what was your job at LimmaTech?
So when we decided to create this company, there was then the time to say, okay, who is going to lead this company? And the CEO of Glycovaxyn decided to step back. And so then LimmaTech, we were a group of founders. So actually the management of Glycovaxyn, we sit together and we say, okay, that is the idea. Do we agree? Do we want to do it together? And so we co-founded LimmaTech. And then who is going to take the lead? And there we voted. And so everybody had to write on a piece of paper.
How many people?
So we were 6.
6
of us.
And everybody could just choose any one of the other 5?
Exactly.
Or themselves?
Or themselves, exactly.
Okay. Did you pick yourself?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted, but I didn't. I thought that was a little bit too...
But obviously, enough of them picked you.
Exactly. So actually all of them.
Really?
Yeah. And so then I thought
Why you? I mean, you're from clinical, regulatory. This is not typically the profile that becomes the CEO. No offense to the clinical and regulatory people, but it's usually the CFO or, somebody from the business side of things.
I think maybe because there was 2 factors. One is because still in the biotech field, early stage, the science is still very, very important. So compared to a CFO, if doesn't have the science background. So I still think for this type of company, a CEO with a science background can help in the early stage. Second, maybe because I show my leadership skills that the people believed that I could do it. And from my side, it's true but I did many already things. I was an engineer, then I did clinical and regulatory, so I did research, then clinical and regulatory. I've been exposed for 2 years into business. Yeah. I was part of the roadshow for the IPO, so I saw as well in the due diligence with GSK, I was definitely involved in all the contract and, reading and having this this discussion with the CEO, CSO about how to shape the LimmaTech. So maybe that's why they thought that they would be the right one. And at the end, the CEO, the previous one, didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, still, I mean, 5-1. That's pretty good. Should have been 6 to none. But so you became CEO. What was either the biggest surprise or the hardest thing? All of a sudden, being the boss of 50 people.
The fact that you're alone.
Yeah.
At the end, you're really alone as a CEO. And because I am a team player, and actually as well, I need others to function well. That was the biggest shock or the difficulties. You know, there is nobody that tells you, bravo. Actually, if people comes to your office, it's because there is an issue. It's rare that people come to your office to say, well done, good work. Whereas before, I always been, because I think I in my career was doing well my job, I always been recognized by my boss or by the external that they were saying, that was very good, well done, Veronica. When you're CEO, this you don't hear anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
how did you manage that?
How do I manage that?
Play tennis?
Playing tennis, try. I think I managed that with trying to be surrounded, but that people that really, you know, we have a good trust. That's for was important. But then at the end you get used exactly. I think, as you said, I had a good balance at home. Definitely, that is important, you know, outside with my family, my husband, my friends, you know, that they are tell you, Vero, that is good, congratulations, you know,
okay.
More the outside, but from inside, it's true that doesn't come
much.
Much.
And what was, you mentioned family, so at this stage you were married?
Yes.
Okay, and kids?
Yes, actually, yes, already.
Okay.
I had already both of them.
Okay, so you become CEO, you're married, you have 2 kids.
Yes.
How do you balance that? Because there's a lot of pressure on the CEO function, and your kids must have been quite young.
Yeah, indeed, they were quite young. So
how do you balance, or how would you advise people to balance that?
First of all, you need to have the family that supports you, and in this case, it's the husband. So for sure, before taking the CEO role, I discussed with my husband, and he agreed, because you need then to really share.
I suppose that's important too.
Yeah, indeed, because
by the way,
otherwise,
I'm CEO now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had always the lucky to have the support in the family from him, and then as well I try to separate, try to be really strict on when I am at home, I am at home.
Yeah.
And when I am at work, I am at work.
What does that mean?
It means that I really switch off. And that, I think, is a thing that people always told me that I was good at. I'm 150% when I'm at work, but I'm as well able to stop thinking about work when I am at home. And I know that it's not so easy.
No.
But I think I am one of these person that I'm able. And so I always tried with my kids, maybe not quantity, because I didn't have too much quantity, but quality. And I was so happy then to be with my kids, because I miss them for sure along the day, that then I was no phone, no emails. And so I was then really dedicated to the family time.
Okay.
So that's definitely helped me.
Okay. When you got to be CEO, I mean, there was obviously people that helped you along the way. What was the best advice you got on any time in your career?
Oh, I had many advice, because I always search for advice.
Yeah.
Even now, I always ask. I always think that you can always improve. One advice that was good, but I'd never follow it, is first of all to think about that work is work, because I tend to go with friends. I tend to not to go with friends. I tend to become friends with the people that I work with, because I spend so much time with them that at the end I like to really as well I know everything about with the people that I work with. But as well with my consultant, I know if they have kids, they don't have kids, how they are doing, because I'm interested as well in the human part of the work. At the end, that is as well sometimes can compromise your judgment in certain decision, because if you have this emotional part, because you are friends with. So that was something that they gave me advice to try to be a little bit less involved from as well a personal with the people that I work with, because then will be as well easier to take certain decision. And maybe another things you always try to do in the way that people would do to you. You know, I always try to treat people how I would like that people treat me. Mm-hmm. I thought that is good, but I realize as well that it's not, because sometimes, you know, how you think that is the right way is not the same for another person. And despite the fact that I try to, you know, to treat people as I think is the best, I realize sometimes that was not the case. Even to let it go, you know, you'd say, I think it's better to be transparent, to really tell why, the truth, and then it didn't work so well. And so then I realized, okay, maybe there is not a good way to do things, and you just have to acknowledge. But at least I am true to my own value, and then you can deal with it and continue.
Okay. So what happened at LimmaTech after that?
Actually, LimmaTech went very well because it grew. So we really grow. We could even, as I said, we were independent. So the collaboration with GSK was giving us profit. And this profit we could use really to start something new. And we did 2 spin-out from LimmaTech, one small that we gave to one of our employees that he wanted to try to work on it and make make another company. Yep. So we agreed on it, you know, for sure with all the contract. And then afterwards, we as well develop with the know-how that we had in-house, another technology that instead to be applied into the vaccine, is applied into the therapeutics. So we decided to make a spin-out. We created GlycoEra. And then for me, there was the decision, okay, do I stay as a CEO of LimmaTech and we find a CEO for GlycoEra, or do I go to GlycoEra as a CEO and then we let it go LimmaTech? That was actually a difficult decision, but at the end I decided to go for GlycoEra because I wanted to be exposed to this fundraising. Yeah. Because, you know, LimmaTech, I knew it. Now I was already CEO since more than 6 years, 7 years now, you know, that is, and was going very well, but I knew the work. And the part that on the CEO that I haven't done it until there, it was raise money. Yeah. And so I decided to leave LimmaTech. Moreover, LimmaTech was already, you know, well-financed, was fine. People knew what to do. I implemented the management team there, actually gave the opportunity of the people down me to grow and so take more responsibilities. And I went to GlycoEra. And so we were already actually 10 people because, you know, we already developed these platform in-house for a couple of years. So we had to take out these people, we put into GlycoEra, I had to create all the legal structure around it. That wasn't easy because there was already all the shareholder in LimmaTech that they wanted to have as well a piece of it from GlycoEra because we generate. So I learned a lot. Definitely I learned a lot. It was tough because people have a different vision, different goals, and I had to really find a consensus between all the shareholders. And then I went on the road again to try to find money for more than 2 years. It was along COVID times, not easy.
Yeah, okay.
Took me a lot of time. I spoke to many investors.
Okay.
But at the end, it was successful. So after 2 years, we found US investors because European didn't want to move. All of them, they say yes, but nobody, it's always the first one that they say, here's the term sheet. And then the other follow. Nobody wanted to make this step.
Okay.
And so, it was a US investor that they decided to put the term sheet. And then after actually went very well. Actually, we wanted to raise around 20 million. And at the end, we raised 50 million.
Okay, wow.
So it was, at the end, was very successful.
And then for you at that stage?
As I mentioned, was a US investor that was not my favorite, not against the US investors, but, they already had the idea was the COVID time, as I said, maybe we bring the company public very early because so we can make an early exit. At that time, there was really
Lots
this
of money.
boom, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And but in order to do that, you need to be in US because it's where the market is, the NASDAQ. And so they asked me to open a site in US, in Boston. They started to ask me to have an executive chairman in US. All fine, but I started to feel, the direction is going towards really US. And I knew that I didn't want to be in US. On one hand, I have to say the investors were good in the sense that have been always transparent. But if I would have had a European choice, probably the direction would have been different.
Yeah.
I found that maybe for me was the time to step down. And then, and so that's actually what I did.
You did.
Exactly.
Okay. Crazy ride.
Yeah, it was. But again, I think was the right choice.
Yeah.
And as well, maybe, I learned to do fundraising. And actually, this is what allowed me then to have all these investors contacting me to take another company. And if I wouldn't take the choice to go to GlycoEra and then to really being 2 years on the road and to meet all these investors, I think I met more than 250 investors.
Wow, okay.
And then at the end, seems that still the investor, appreciate what I was presenting and doing because then I really had a lot of opportunity to be again a CEO. And then one of these actually investors that asked me to take a company, I went to see there. Actually, it's Pureos Bioventures. So I went there to discuss about the company. And along the discussion, they started to say, by the way, we are looking for a partner. Why you don't become a partner? And then I say, wait a moment. I'm here for a CEO position. And they say, yeah, but think about. And then I say, okay. Again, I say, why not? And so I started to think about. And I was not so sure, I have to say. I always was a little bit negative about investors. And so say,
well, when you're on the other side.
Exactly, it's normal. You have to blame somebody when you don't get the money. So and there was as well, again, with my husband, they were saying, Veronica, why not? You can bring your point of view, being for so many years on the other side. You know what you like and you know what you didn't like from the investor aspect. Maybe you could as well bring something and again learn something from them. And that's why I decided, okay. And so now since 2 years, I'm part of Pureos Bioventures as a partner.
Okay. So with that said, what do you think is the state of biotech today? I mean, we all know about, as you referred to earlier, the 2021, 22 COVID boom times for biotech. Now we know there's a bit of a slump that's happened, but what do you think about now? What do you think about 2025?
I think it's difficult right now, definitely. It's a downside in biotech after the boom of COVID, as just you mentioned. It will get better. We always say to try to get better. I think, first of all, in general, the biotechs is amazing. It's a very exciting period to be in. I think all with, you can name it, genomics, precise medicine, digital health, artificial intelligence. I mean, it's amazing what we have, the tools that we have right now compared to before. And I think that can really going to be a breakthrough in drug discovery, in safety, in the quality, in the speed to get there. And so I think really it's very, very exciting. The health is one of the pillar of the life, so will be always important. We will always need new medicine, and we will always need we want to stay healthy and live long. So the sector, there are bumps, but I'm still will go back. The situation, it's a worldwide situation. It's economics. It's what it is. But I'm still positive that the 24, the hard time, especially in financing, is very tough. Yeah. It's very tough. Many companies are looking for money, and we need a little bit as well be creative, and maybe as well from a political part to incentivize as well. I always we talk about pension casse to support fund of fund and support and government to support to give to the specialists money or to the academies in order to keep the innovation ongoing, and that we are able to invest into new ideas.
Okay, what do you think will be the biggest breakthrough in the next 5-10 years? I know that's a really difficult question.
AI was already a big one, this digital level as well. I think one that still there was not a big breakthrough, but has started that I think it will come sooner or later is all the microbiome environment. How the microbiome is going to really to make other drugs works better, or just change your microbiome, adapt in order to not get sick. I think it started, but it was still not a breakthrough. And I believe that is really a space that in the future we will hear more about it.
All right. So, Veronica, when we close this up on Leadership Lab, we have what we call the Mentorship Minute. And that's where you have a minute to kind of really give advice. And I mean, think of maybe you at EPFL or just finishing school, or, somebody who's early in career who, really doesn't know what to do. What's the best advice you could offer somebody who's at the early stages?
So I would say to talk to people, really. I think at the end, in all you do is to ask other people how do they do, because then you will generate your own idea in talking to the others and see the path of the other people, and then say, that's look interesting. Follow the gut feeling as well. Sometimes, there is no right and wrong. And luckily, I started in engineering and I wanted to do sport. At the end, you will find your path. And if you always try to, to give your best in what you do, I'm sure that the opportunity will show up. And so to not think too much sometimes, to just jump and take a new challenge. I think you can always go back if it was not the right choice, but should not be afraid to make the wrong choice. So try, and until you do with honesty and, as I said, with motivation, I'm sure people will do well.
Amazing. No, it's been really great getting to know even more about you today, and it was a real pleasure talking to you. I think there's a lot for people in there, so thank you very much. If you want to say where you're at now, Pureos Bioventures, right?
Yes.
So people should go check that out, I guess.
If they want, they can definitely check out.
But thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure for me as well for this chat. I hope it's useful for as well the others.
Me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Leadership Lab, where we dissect life science success stories. If you enjoyed that, please check us out and follow on Spotify under Leadership Lab. If you don't want to miss any episodes, Be sure to follow Headcount on LinkedIn or subscribe to the Headcount YouTube channel. And as always, we thank Headcount for making this possible. If you don't want to miss out on any of the latest job opportunities in the life sciences industry, please check out the newest roles at headcount.ch.